We currently have 3 different Mueller Immersion blenders in our lab. If you're on a budget and want a versatile hand blender, this Mueller 5-in-1 seems to be a solid choice. But is it better than the others? We've tested it to find out, so keep watching as we break down the results. I'm Tina and welcome back to our Shouldit Blender Series. So, here's the test in action, but before we move forward, please take a moment to check out how Shouldit tests immersion blenders. It guides you through our testing process and the key factors we focus on. Once you've seen it, you have a clearer idea of how we evaluate every test, including this first one, pasta puree. Our recipe for this first test included chicken broth, onion, celery, pumpkin, and carrot, all pressure cooked until they were soft enough to blend. To keep things consistent, we make sure the soup stays right around 136 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Once everything was ready, we pushed the blender to its highest speed and blended for 30 seconds. The Mueller's performance here was solidly average. After straining the soup through a mesh filter, we did find some residue left behind. Still, there were no major lumps or stringy bits. The final soup had a nice, smooth texture, something you expect from a good homemade recipe. Hot soup puree, 7 out of 10. Up next, we tested a frozen smoothie using frozen mango, frozen pineapple, kale, and a bit of water. Actually, this test is challenging for all immersion blenders, and it forces them to blend at their power limits. So, similar to other models, the Mueller 5-in-1 had to face a lot of difficulties before finally making it through. Due to the extreme toughness of frozen fruits, its blades barely spun at first, and we could even hear the motor rattling under the high pressure. Only when the fruit started to thaw out could it blend with less effort. It was estimated to have taken about 1 minute and 40 seconds to give us a smooth, lump-free smoothie. This was a lot longer than we hoped, however, considering that the smoothie was fairly blended. That wasn't a huge issue, especially when we didn't mind spending a bit more time. Smoothie, 6.3 out of 10. The third experiment was mayonnaise, a mix of 3 egg yolks and 240 milliliters of oil. During the process, this Mueller 5-in-1 could smoothly maintain a consistent low speed and draw the ingredients into its place, which led to a result that set up quickly and was less likely to split. Our only trouble comes from the bigger stability while blending. Somehow, as the texture got thicker, it caused the blades to work harder, and that extra load created stronger vibrations carried into the beaker and made it move around on the counter. Of course, the mayo's quality wasn't our best possible emulsion. It seemed to be lighter than store-bought versions, had a glossy sheen that stayed light in body, not dense enough. Still, it wasn't runny looking nor greasy on top. Easy to spread and stable in thin layers, it was a very good no-frills homemade mayo. Mayonnaise, 7.8 out of 10. Test 4 centered on making almond milk. We placed 1 cup of raw almonds and 3 cups of filtered water, blending at maximum power until the mixture reached optimal consistency. Of all the 5 tests, this was the worst performance of the Mueller 5-in-1 because it just kept gluing itself to the beaker's bottom. The suction was so intense that it was impossible to move the wand. We could even let the blender pick the beaker up purely by suction. This meant that after only a few seconds of effective blending, the blender just burned in one spot, and very little ingredient reached the blaze. So almost no further processing happened unless we paused and lifted its head to break the suction. To be fair, however, the result was about average, not too bad, and certainly not the least satisfying we've seen. Total running time was 1 minute and 10 seconds, which was a reasonable window. The milk didn't deliver the fullest expression of creaminess, but it didn't feel watery either. That balance suggests a near-fine right, and you experience a nice robust almond flavor. Almond milk, 7.5 out of 10. The final test involved whipping 100 ml of egg white to measure its ability as a hand mixer. All things considered, our Mueller completed this task with great success. In 2 minutes, the egg whites were successfully frothed into a stiff peak using the whisk attachment. We liked how light, airy, and stable the whip was. Even when the beaker was flipped upside down, it held itself perfectly without deflation or breaking apart. If your main task is whisking or aerating simple ingredients like cream, egg whites, and batters for large cakes, muffins, and quick breads, this blender is a good option. Whipped egg whites, 10 out of 10. So, following the completion of the 5 performance tests, the Mueller 5-in-1 received a score of 7.8 out of 10. The Mueller 5-in-1 is not the best immersion blender you can find on the market, but it's definitely one of the most compelling options in its segment. Of course, there are some compromises compared to premium models, especially in usability and heavy-duty performance. You may find it less effective on thick, frozen, or fibrous foods. Under tricky tasks, the strain on the motor becomes substantial, causing it to vibrate more dramatically in your hand. Not only does this affect your blending comfort, but it also makes it harder to get even blends. You may also need to watch out for its vacuum effect, since the blender may stick to the container's bottom throughout the process. Nonetheless, with an ergonomic handle, wide-range speed control, and several attachments for blending, swirling, chopping, and frothing, this hand blender should be a great upgrade if you're seeking to replace your outdated blender with something more flexible. For those who are just getting into blending and want something easy to start with, the Mueller 5-in-1 makes it simple and approachable. That's it for our review of the Mueller 5-in-1 Immersion Blender. You can find more details through the link in the description or explore other options in our Shouldit Blender series. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you catch our upcoming reviews. Thanks for watching Shouldit, and see you in the next video. Bye!